The call should have ended at 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. Dad's voice had been warm, almost normal when he said, "Talk to you later, sweetheart. Drive safe." I heard the beep that meant he'd press the red button on his phone screen. But his Bluetooth didn't disconnect. His voice came through my car speakers again, different now. Excited. "She's finally gone, Verena. God, I thought she'd never get off the phone." I sat at the red light, my hands frozen on the steering wheel. Verena Crawford, the woman Dad introduced as his life coach 6 months after Mom died. Her voice purred through my speakers. "When do we clear out her stuff, baby? I want that spare bedroom for my office, and all those dusty old things in the basement need to go before she notices what we're planning." Laughter. My father actually laughed. "This weekend's perfect. Marielle works those double shifts on Saturdays. We'll donate everything before she even knows it's gone." I pulled into a parking lot, hands shaking so badly I could barely shift into park. Their voices kept filling my Honda, casual and cruel. "What about her mother's things?" Verena asked. "That ratty quilt, those ugly paintings, all that junk she's hoarding?" My breath caught. Mom's wedding quilt. The one she'd stitched by hand over 6 months. The paintings her grandmother created. Junk. "The donation center opens at 8. Last Dad replied, his voice lighter than I'd heard it in months. "I'll have everything loaded by noon. Fresh start, baby. Just you and me." I pressed record on my phone, my nursing training kicking in. Document everything. Protect yourself. Evidence matters. The icon glowed at the top of my screen. Recording. I whispered the words that would become my vow. "So this is what my father thinks of me." The drive home blurred past in silence. Every red light felt like a prison. When I finally pulled into my apartment complex, I sat in my parking space for 37 minutes, staring at nothing. Inside, boxes still lined my hallway. Mom's belongings I'd salvaged from the house 2 years ago when Dad said he couldn't look at them anymore. I'd promised to sort through them when I had time. Nursing shifts at County General left little energy for grief. Now I knelt beside the nearest box and lifted out Mom's wedding quilt. My fingers traced the stitches, each one a tiny perfect loop. The grief that hit me wasn't for Mom. She'd been gone 3 years, and I'd made my peace with that loss. This grief was fresh and sharp. I was mourning my father, the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd stayed up all night when I had pneumonia at 12, who'd held me when Mom died and promised we'd get through it together. That man was already gone. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother Corin. "You okay? Your voice sounded weird earlier." We'd spoken briefly that morning about his new construction job, just the twice-weekly check-ins we'd maintained since Mom's funeral. I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Everything in me wanted to tell him, to have someone validate that I wasn't losing my mind. But something held me back. Once I spoke these words aloud, I couldn't take them back. Once I shattered this last illusion of family, we'd all have to face what Dad had become. I typed, "Just tired, long shift coming up." His reply came immediately. "Dad's been acting strange lately, secretive. That Verena woman gives me bad vibes. Just be careful around him, okay?" I stared at those words. Be careful. Around our father. Corin's tone carried something I'd never heard before, a quiet warning that made my skin prickle. What had he noticed that I'd been too close to see? Saturday morning, I drove to Dad's house while he was supposed to be at his woodworking club. My key still worked in the side door, the lock clicking open the same way it had my entire childhood. Inside, everything felt wrong. Different. Like the house had shifted while I wasn't looking. The basement stairs creaked under my feet, familiar sounds in an increasingly unfamiliar place. I pulled the chain for the overhead light. Empty. The entire corner where my boxes had been carefully stacked was stripped completely bare. Dust outlines remained, perfect rectangles showing exactly where my childhood had lived until yesterday. 23 boxes reduced to ghost marks on concrete. I walked the perimeter in a daze, looking for something they might have missed. On top of the old freezer sat a printed donation slip. Goodwill collection, scheduled for Saturday pickup. The handwriting underneath was neat, feminine, nothing like Dad's messy scrawl. Finally clearing out the clutter, V. Verena's signature. She'd signed her name with a little heart over the I. I was standing in the kitchen, still holding that donation slip, when footsteps sounded above me. My heart hammered as I climbed the basement stairs. Verena stood in the doorway to the living room, perfectly comfortable in my mother's house. She wore expensive athleisure, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail that probably cost more than my grocery budget. Designer sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Marielle," she said, not even pretending to be surprised. "Snooping around, are we?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You should have cleaned out that basement years ago. We're just finishing what you started. Your father needs to move forward, not live in a museum to the past." The casual cruelty in her voice made my hands clench. Those were my mother's things. My things. Verena examined her manicured nails, French tips perfect and sharp. "Your mother's dead, sweetheart. She doesn't need quilts or paintings anymore. But I'm alive, and I need space for my things. Your father agrees." She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it clearly. This wasn't ignorance. This was design. Strategic, calculated. She wanted me erased, and she was using my father as the weapon to do it. 2 weeks later, Dad hosted a gathering for his woodworking club. 15 men he'd known for 20 years, friends who'd attended Mom's funeral, who'd checked on him during his darkest days. Corin had called me that morning. "Dad specifically asked if you were coming. Said it would mean a lot. Maybe he's trying to make amends?" I arrived with homemade cookies, Mom's recipe, hoping for some sign of the father I remembered. The moment I walked in, I knew I'd been set up. Verena had redecorated everything. Mom's photos were gone from the mantel, replaced with generic beach scenes from HomeGoods. The smell was wrong too. Vanilla candles instead of Mom's lavender. During dinner, Dad told a story that made everyone laugh. "You know, Marielle still acts like this house belongs to her. Comes over unannounced, snoops around, questions every decision I make." He took a long drink of beer. "You'd think I'm the guest in my own home. Verena's been helping me set boundaries, finally." People chuckled, thinking it was a loving father gently teasing his daughter. But Dad's eyes were cold when they met mine. Distant. Like he was looking at a trespasser who'd overstayed her welcome. On Monday, I met with Mrs. Cavendish, our family lawyer, who'd handled Mom's estate. She was a stern woman in her 60s who'd known our family since I was 10. "Marielle, there's something you need to know." She pulled out a folder marked with Dad's name. "Your father updated his will 13 months ago. I tried to reach you, but the contact information he provided was incorrect." My mouth went dry. "What changed?" Mrs. Cavendish spread papers across her mahogany desk. "Everything. The house, the life insurance payout, the savings accounts, your mother's jewelry collection. It all goes to Verena Crawford now." The room tilted. "What about me? Corin? Maeve?" "Minimal bequests, 5,000 each. The rest, approximately 470,000 in total assets, goes to Ms. Crawford." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "He told me you three had a family meeting. That you specifically said you didn't want the responsibility of managing an inheritance. That you'd prefer everything be simplified." I gripped the arms of the leather chair. "That meeting never happened. I never said any of those things." Mrs. Cavendish removed her reading glasses slowly. "I suspected as much. Your father seemed very certain, but something felt off. He kept repeating the same phrases. Verena says, Verena thinks. Verena helped me understand." She leaned forward. "Marielle, I've seen this before. Isolation, manipulation, rewriting history. My father had either lied to our family lawyer or worse, he believed Verena's version of conversations that never happened. Either way, I was being systematically erased from his life." That evening, our neighbor Mrs. Kowalski caught me in the driveway. She was 83, widowed, and noticed everything on our street. "Marielle, dear, I've been meaning to call you." She glanced toward Dad's house nervously, her wrinkled hands clutching her cardigan. 3 weeks ago, early morning, maybe 6 a.m., I saw that Verena woman carrying your mother's jewelry box to her car, the mahogany one with the rose inlay. I recognized it from when your mother showed me her grandmother's pearls." My blood ran cold. "Are you certain it was Mom's box?" "Positive. I almost said something to your father, but she put it in her trunk so quickly, like she didn't want anyone to see. And your father's truck wasn't there. He'd already left for work." Mrs. Kowalski touched my arm. "I don't trust that woman, honey. She's got calculating eyes." I thanked her and drove straight to Dad's house. Using my key one more time, I went to Mom's bedroom, to the antique dresser where she'd kept her keepsakes for 30 years. The drawer slid open. Empty. Completely bare except for a single crushed velvet pouch shoved into the back corner. I opened it with shaking hands. Nothing. Mom's pearl necklace, her grandmother's engagement ring, her wedding band, the sapphire earrings Dad gave her on their 20th anniversary. All gone. Stolen. Pawned. Erased. My sister Maeve confronted Dad the next day. She was fiercer than me, less willing to swallow anger for the sake of peace. Our youngest sibling at 28, Maeve had inherited Mom's fire and Dad's stubbornness in equal measure. Corin called me during the explosion. "You need to hear this," he whispered, and I heard Maeve's voice in the background, sharp with rage. "Where is Mom's jewelry? The pearls, the rings, every single piece from her keepsake drawer." Dad's voice came through muffled. "What are you talking about? I don't know anything about jewelry." "Don't lie to me. Mrs. Kowalski saw Verena taking the jewelry box 3 weeks ago." Silence. Then Verena's voice, sickly sweet. "Your sister's always been dramatic, Maeve, making up stories to cause problems. Your father would never dispose of your mother's things without asking. You know that." I could hear Maeve's breathing, harsh and furious. "You're lying. Both of you are lying." Then Verena again, sharper now. "Your sister exaggerates. She always has. Even your mother used to say Marielle made mountains out of molehills." Corin told me later that Maeve had turned white at that, using Mom's voice, her memory, to gaslight us. Maeve stormed out. Dad let her go without a word. Didn't call after her. Didn't defend his daughters. Just stood there while Verena whispered something that made him nod. I tried one final time to reach him. Tuesday evening, I called Dad and asked him to dinner at Marino's, his favorite Italian restaurant. Neutral ground. No Verena. Just us. He arrived 15 minutes late, distracted, checking his phone every few minutes. For an hour, we talked about surface things, work, weather, Corin's new construction project. Safe topics that didn't require honesty. Then I said, "Dad, I went to the basement. Everything's gone." His face shuddered immediately. "You need to let go, Marielle. You're 32 years old. It's time you stopped living in the past. Those were Mom's things. You told me I could keep them there." That was before. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Before what? Before Verena helped me see how unhealthy it was. Hoarding memories, refusing to move forward. She's a licensed life coach. She understands grief psychology. My fork clattered onto my plate. "She told you I'm hoarding? That honoring Mom's memory is unhealthy?" "She's helping me start fresh." His voice took on a rehearsed quality. "Something you and your siblings never understood I needed. You wanted me to stay stuck in grief forever." These weren't his words. This was Verena's script, delivered in my father's voice. I studied his face across the table. When had he become so uncertain, so willing to let someone else's words replace his own thoughts? The man who'd raised me to question everything, to think critically, was parroting talking points from a woman he'd known less than a year. The realization hit me during dessert. "Dad, do you remember the letter?" He looked up from his tiramisu, confused. "What letter?" "Mom's letter, the one she wrote me before she died. You were there when she sealed it. You promised you'd keep it safe until I was ready to read it." I watched his face carefully. "She told me it was in a box in the basement, the one marked important, do not touch." Recognition flickered across his features, then vanished. "I don't know what you're talking about, Marielle. Your mother never wrote any letters." But his hands trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. "You're lying." The words came out flat, certain. Dad's jaw clenched. "I think this dinner was a mistake. You're clearly not ready to have adult conversations." He stood, threw cash on the table. "When you're ready to stop attacking me and support my healing process, call me. Until then, maybe we need some space." He walked out of Marino's without looking back, leaving me sitting alone at a table set for two. The waiter approached hesitantly. "Is everything all right, miss?" I looked at Mom's letter envelope that I'd brought, hoping to remind Dad of his promise. The envelope I'd found empty in my apartment, the contents stolen during one of Verena's cleaning visits to help me declutter. "No," I told the waiter honestly. "Everything is very far from all right." The call from Dad's accountant came Tuesday morning. I was between shifts, still in my scrubs, when my phone rang with a number I vaguely recognized. "Marielle, this is Howard Chen from Prestige Financial. I've handled your father's accounts for 15 years. Howard had been at Mom's funeral. had helped us navigate insurance claims and medical bills. His voice carried worry now. I'm calling because I need you to understand what's happening with your father's finances. Legally, I can't give details without his permission, but... He paused. Let's just say if you were to ask about home equity lines of credit, co-signed loans for relatives of romantic partners, and rapidly depleting savings accounts, those would be excellent questions. My stomach dropped. How bad is it? If this continues for another 6 months, your father will have nothing left. The house will need to be sold to cover debts. His retirement will be gone. Howard's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Marielle, in 15 years, your father never made a single impulsive financial decision. Now he's taking out loans for people he's known less than a year. This isn't him. Something's very wrong. I pulled up my banking app right there in the hospital parking lot. For 3 years, since right after Mom died, I'd been depositing $500 monthly into Dad's account. Property taxes, utilities, small repairs. I never told Corin or Maeve, never asked for recognition. Just quietly helped because that's what you do for family. $18,000 over 3 years. Money I'd earned during double shifts and overtime, money that should have been going into my own savings, my own future. I canceled the automatic transfer. No explanation, no warning, just stopped. The confirmation message appeared, recurring transfer canceled. I stared at it for a long moment, then screenshotted it for my records. Document everything. That had become my mantra. The rope I'd been clinging to, hoping it would pull me back to the father I remembered, dissolved in my hand. But instead of drowning, I felt something unexpected. Lighter. Free. I was done trying to prove my love to someone who decided I was disposable. Dad called 72 hours later. I was driving home from a shift when his name appeared on my car's display screen. Against my better judgment, I answered, Marielle. His voice was sharp, angry. We need to talk about your financial sabotage. My foot eased off the gas. Excuse me? Verena showed me your bank account activity. The deposits you've been making? They stopped, right after our dinner. She says you're trying to sabotage our relationship by making me financially dependent on you. The logic was so twisted, I almost laughed. Verena has access to my bank account information? She's helping me organize my finances. She noticed the deposits stopped and asked why you'd abandon me now when I need family support the most. Abandon. That word from my father's mouth felt like a physical blow. Dad, those deposits were a gift. My choice to give. My choice to stop. If you believe stopping a gift I was never obligated to give is sabotage, then you don't know me at all. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Final. Then he said the words that changed everything. You've always been jealous. Your mother saw it. Now Verena sees it too. Jealous that I found happiness again. What did you just say? My voice came out deadly quiet. You heard me. I pulled into a parking lot, my hands shaking too badly to drive. You don't get to use Mom's voice to justify what you're doing. Mom never said those things about me. Never. And if you believe she did, then Verena has successfully erased even your memories of who Mom actually was. Click. He hung up. But my phone screen still showed the Bluetooth icon, still connected to my car's system, and below it, glowing like evidence. Audio saved, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the notification. The entire call had been automatically recorded through my car system. Every word Dad said, every accusation, every lie Verena had fed him that he'd swallowed whole. I hadn't planned to record anything. Didn't even know the system did that automatically. But now I had proof. Proof that I wasn't imagining the cruelty. Proof that my father believed I was jealous, sabotaging, abandoning. Proof in his own words. My finger hovered over the delete button. Some part of me wanted to erase it, pretend this conversation hadn't happened, pretend Dad hadn't used Mom's memory as a weapon. But the nurse in me, trained to document everything for legal protection, saved the file to 3 separate locations. Cloud storage. External drive. Email to myself. Just in case. Just in case this got worse. Just in case I needed the truth in a form no one could deny. I texted Corin, we need to talk. Family meeting, this weekend, bring Maeve. His response came immediately, what happened? I sent him the audio file without comment. 10 minutes later my phone rang. Corin's voice was shaking. That son of a... This weekend, I repeated, we need a plan. Saturday morning, I hired movers. 2 guys from a company Corin recommended, professionals who asked no questions. Riley came too, my best friend since nursing school, who'd heard every detail and looked ready to commit violence on my behalf. "You're sure about this?" she asked as we pulled up to Dad's house. "Once you do this, there's no going back." I showed her the text message from 2 years ago. Dad's words in blue text bubbles. "Keep your things in the basement as long as you need. Your mom's stuff too. No rush. This will always be your home." "I'm sure." We knocked. Dad answered, his face cycling through shock, confusion, then anger when he saw the moving truck. "What is this?" "Marielle, what are you doing?" I held up my phone, showing him his own text message. "You gave me permission to store my belongings here. You wrote, and I quote, 'No rush, I'm taking them now.'" That was before. Verena appeared behind him, her face twisted with rage. "You can't just show up with movers. This is harassment." Corin stepped forward from beside the truck. 6'3" of solid muscle from construction work, tattoos visible under his t-shirt sleeves. He didn't say a word, didn't make threats, just stood there, arms crossed. Dad's face went pale, then red. "Fine. Take it. Take everything. Prove what a selfish daughter you are." "Gladly," I said and gestured to the movers. We worked fast. The movers were efficient, professional, carrying boxes up the basement stairs in a steady stream. Mom's quilts, her paintings. The hope chest Dad built her for their 5th anniversary. Photo albums, recipe cards. Everything Verena had deemed clutter and junk. I personally supervised every box, checking contents, making sure nothing was left behind. In the back room of the basement, behind old furniture Dad had forgotten existed, I found one final box, smaller than the others, unmarked except for water damage on one corner. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, beneath old photo albums and Mom's recipe cards, was an envelope. Cream-colored, slightly yellowed. My name in Mom's handwriting. The letter, the one Dad said didn't exist. The one Verena must have missed during her purge. I glanced toward the stairs where voices echoed. Carefully, quietly, I slipped the envelope into my jacket's inner pocket, zipping it closed. Some things were too precious to risk. Some things needed protection until the moment was right. I'd read Mom's words later alone when I could give them the attention they deserved. "Marielle?" Riley called down. "We're loading the last boxes." "Coming," I called back, my hand pressed against my jacket, feeling the envelope's outline. One last piece of Mom that Verena hadn't managed to destroy. Monday morning, driving past town on my way to work, something caught my eye. A pawn shop window display. A necklace catching sunlight. Pearl. Antique. Exactly like my mother's. I pulled it over so fast my tires squealed, earning honks from cars behind me. Inside, the shop smelled like dust and desperation. The owner was a tired-looking man in his 50s. Reading glasses perched on his bald head. "The pearl necklace in the window. Can I see it?" He retrieved it carefully, laying it on black velvet. I picked it up with shaking hands, turning the clasp toward the light. There, engraved in tiny script, E.T. Forever, C.M. Elizabeth Thornton, my mother's maiden name. Charles Morgan, my grandfather, his wedding gift to her. "How much?" My voice came out strangled. $350. It's a genuine antique, estate piece. I handed him my credit card before he finished speaking. "Do you keep records of who pawned items?" He hesitated, fingers hovering over the register. "Legally, yes, for theft recovery purposes. I need to see the record for this necklace. It was stolen from my family." His expression shifted. "Got ID proving your family?" I showed him my license, same last name as the engraving. He pulled up his computer, clicked through screens, then turned the monitor toward me. Transaction date, 3 weeks ago. Seller, Verena Crawford. Amount received, $200. "You got security footage?" The owner nodded slowly. "Want me to email it?" "Please." I drove straight to Dad's house. He was in the garage working on one of his wood projects, sawdust covering his work clothes. The familiar smell of cedar should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a betrayal. I laid the pawn slip and a printed screenshot from the shop's security footage on his workbench. The image was crystal clear. Verena handing over Mom's jewelry box, counting cash, signing the receipt. She pawned Mom's jewelry, all of it. I bought the necklace back, the rest is probably gone forever. Dad's face crumbled. Confusion and panic flickered across his features like he was a child caught in a lie he'd convinced himself was truth. "That's not." She wouldn't. There must be some mistake. His hands shook as he picked up the pawn slip. Watch the security footage, I said, pulling out my phone. I played the clip. Verena, clear as day, chatting casually with the pawn shop owner while trading my mother's heirlooms for cash. Dad's face went from red to white to gray. I'll talk to her. There must be an explanation. An explanation? Dad, she stole from you, from Mom, from us. Gravel crunched in the driveway. Verena's white Mercedes. She must have tracking on Dad's phone, some way of knowing when trouble arrived. She walked into the garage, assessed the situation in seconds, and grabbed Dad's hand. Her voice came out sharp, accusatory. What lies is she telling you now, Calder? Can't you see what she's doing? She probably pawned those things herself and doctored this footage to frame me. She's always been jealous of our relationship. Dad stood there, trembling, looking between the evidence in his hands and Verena's face. I saw the moment he made his choice, saw his hand squeeze Verena's tighter, saw his eyes go distant, retreating into the comfortable lie rather than facing uncomfortable truth. Marielle, I think you should leave. The words hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I have the original security footage, time-stamped, dated. The pawn shop owner will testify if needed. This isn't fake, Dad. This is reality. Verena's smile was poison. Lawyers cost money, sweetheart. Money your father doesn't want to waste on your drama. I looked at Dad one final time. When you're ready to face the truth, you know where to find me, but I'm done bringing it to you. I left, but this time I didn't cry. I'd already mourned the father I thought I knew. This stranger wearing his face was someone else's problem now. That night, Corin and Maeve came to my apartment. We sat around my small kitchen table, Mom's quilt spread across the couch, her jewelry box open between us with just the one necklace inside. Are you going to fight? Maeve asked. The house, the will, the inheritance? Mrs. Cavendish said you have grounds. I touched Mom's necklace, the pearls smooth and cool under my fingers. Fight for what? Walls? Money? I looked at my siblings. I'm not fighting for property. I'm fighting for something more important. Truth. Peace. My own soul. Corin leaned back, studying me. What does that mean? It means I'm done proving myself to someone who's chosen not to see me. I'm done fighting for scraps of attention from a man who'd rather believe comfortable lies. I'll protect what matters. I gestured to the boxes of Mom's belongings now safe in my apartment. But I won't destroy myself trying to save someone who doesn't want saving. The next day I met with Mrs. Cavendish again. She spread documents across her desk. The changed will, financial records, timeline of Verena's influence. You can challenge this, Marielle. The evidence is solid. Undue influence, possible fraud, the timing of the will change. She leaned forward. But I need you to understand what you're signing up for. Tell me. 2 to 3 years of litigation, tens of thousands in legal fees, depositions, court appearances, every family secret aired publicly, your father on the witness stand, siblings taking sides, holidays destroyed, relationships burned beyond repair. Mrs. Cavendish removed her glasses. You'd probably win. The jewelry theft alone is damning. You'd get portions of the estate back. Maybe half the house value, some of the accounts. But, I prompted, but you'd lose years of your life to anger. You'd spend every day focused on what was taken, instead of what you still have. You'd win the house and lose your peace. Is that worth it? I thought about Mom's letter, still unread in my nightstand, about the necklace I'd bought back, about the boxes of memories now safe in my space. What would I actually win, Mrs. Cavendish? Money that's already being drained? A house filled with bad memories? The satisfaction of proving I was right? I stood up. Or I could walk away with my dignity, my peace, and my memories intact. I could build a life that doesn't revolve around fighting for scraps from people who've shown me exactly what I'm worth to them. Mrs. Cavendish smiled. Your mother would be very proud of that answer. 2 weeks of silence passed. Then Dad called at 11:47 p.m. on a Friday. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Marielle? His voice sounded desperate, thin. I need help. The loan payment is due Monday and I'm short $4,000. The bank is threatening foreclosure proceedings. My old instinct rose up immediately. How much? When do you need it? How can I help? But I'd learned new instincts. Healthier ones. Stronger ones. Dad, I can't help you with that. Silence. Heavy and shocked. What? I can't give you $4,000. After everything I've done for you, I raised you, put a roof over your head, paid for your education. His voice turned cold, manipulative. This is how you repay me? After everything you've done to me, I corrected gently. After changing your will to exclude your children. After letting Verena pawn Mom's jewelry. After accusing me of jealousy and sabotage. After choosing comfortable lies over your own daughter's truth. My voice stayed calm. I love you, Dad, but I can't keep funding choices I wasn't part of making, decisions I actively warned you against. You're abandoning me. No, I'm protecting myself, there's a difference. Hung up. 20 minutes later, a text from an unknown number. You're a selfish, cruel daughter. Abandoning your father when he needs you most. Your mother would be ashamed. I blocked the number. Then, for the first time in my life, I blocked Dad's number too. For my own peace, for my own sanity. For the first time, I chose myself over his approval. The call came at 2:13 a.m. 3 weeks later. County General's main line, not a personal number. We have Calder Thornton in the ER. He's listed you as emergency contact. He slipped on ice in his driveway and hit his head. Possible concussion. I was dressed and driving before the nurse finished speaking. Whatever boundaries I'd set, whatever anger I held, disappeared when someone said my father was hurt. Some instincts run deeper than betrayal. I found him in the ER Bay 3, confused and irritable, a bandage on his temple, his eyes unfocused from pain medication. "Where's Verena?" were his first words to me. Not "thank you," not "I'm glad you're here." Just "where's Verena?" The number listed didn't answer, the nurse said quietly. I tried Verena's number 6 times during the drive. Straight to voicemail every time. "She's unreachable, Dad." I pulled a chair beside his bed. "But I'm here." His eyes met mine. Something flickering in them that might have been recognition, might have been regret, might have been the medication. The nurse did assessments while I held Dad's hand, making sure he received the dignity and care every patient deserved. Even the ones who'd forgotten you deserved the same. "Your vitals look good, Mr. Thornton," the nurse said. "We'll keep you for observation overnight. Standard concussion protocol." Dad nodded, then closed his eyes. I stayed. I stepped out at 4 a.m. to get terrible vending machine coffee. When I returned to Dad's room, I found Verena there, perfectly made up despite the hour. And spread across Dad's lap were papers. Legal documents. "Just sign here, baby." Verena held a pen, guiding it toward Dad's hand. It's easier to handle these things now while we're thinking clearly, before the kids try to interfere. Dad's hand shook as he held the pen. His eyes were unfocused, medications making him groggy and compliant. I walked in slowly, calmly, and gently took the papers from Dad's lap. Property transfer documents, quitclaim deed. Transferring the house to Verena Crawford for $1 and other valuable consideration. Drafted by Kenneth Marsh, attorney at law. Dated today. "What are you doing?" Verena's voice turned sharp. "Dad's been medically sedated," I said calmly, pressing the call button beside his bed. "He's on morphine, Ativan, and anti-nausea medication. He can't legally sign anything right now." The nurse arrived quickly. I showed her the documents, explained what I'd walked in on. Her professional mask slipped into disgust. "Ma'am, attempting to have a patient sign legal documents while medically impaired is illegal. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, now, and I'm documenting this in his chart." "This is ridiculous." Verena grabbed her purse. "Calder, tell them." But Dad's eyes were closed, his breathing deep, either asleep or pretending. Either way, choosing silence. Verena's face twisted with rage, but she left. The nurse made detailed notes. I kept the documents, more evidence for the file that kept growing. Later that morning, after Dad was moved to a regular room, he woke more alert. The medications had worn off enough for clarity to return. He stared at the ceiling for a long time before speaking. "You stopped her." His voice was rough, uncertain. "From what?" "From getting my signature on the house papers." He turned to look at me. I remember saying, yes, agreeing it made sense, but I don't remember why. I sat down heavily in the visitor chair, exhausted from being awake for 26 hours. "Dad, do you understand what almost happened? You almost signed away your house, your only asset, for $1. She said it was for tax purposes, to protect it from medical liens. It was to steal it." The words came out flat. "To transfer ownership, so when you die or need nursing home care, she owns everything, and you have nothing." Dad's jaw clenched. You think the worst of her. You always have. I think what the evidence shows me. I pulled out my phone, showed him the pawn shop footage again. I think what her actions prove. He turned away. I don't want to talk about this, Marielle. I'm tired. My head hurts. You're always trying to ruin things. I'm protecting you. Even when you don't want me to. Even when you hate me for it. Even when you choose lies over truth. I stood, grabbed my coat. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep fighting for someone who thinks I'm the enemy. I walked toward the door. Don't go, he whispered. I paused, hand on the doorframe. I'm done being the person who stays when you push me away, then gets blamed when things fall apart. I'm done being your emotional punching bag. I love you, Dad, but I love myself more now. And this time, I didn't look back to see if he was watching. 3 months later, Corin called with news I'd been expecting but hadn't wanted to confirm. The house sold. Closed yesterday. I set down my coffee. How much did he get? After the home equity line, the co-signed loans, the back taxes, the penalties for early mortgage payoff. Corin's voice was hollow. 28,000, from a house worth 400,000 3 years ago. The number sat between us like a gravestone. Where is he now? That's the thing, Marielle. That's why I'm calling. Corin took a breath. Verina's gone. Disappeared. Left the same day she found out the final sale numbers. Packed all her stuff while Dad was at the closing attorney's office and vanished. Surprise, surprise. Dad's at Sunrise Senior Community now. That assisted living facility near County General. The cheapest one that would take him. His pension covers the room and basic care, but that's it. Nothing left for extras. No savings. No assets. Just monthly checks that disappear into facility fees. Have you seen him? Yesterday. Corin's voice cracked. God, Marielle, he looks so small, so broken. He just sits in this plastic chair by the window, staring at nothing. I closed my eyes. How long did she stay after the money was gone? 36 hours. Someone at the facility said she came once, saw the room, saw the reality, and never came back. Of course she didn't. Verina had never wanted my father. She'd wanted his assets. When those evaporated, so did she. Are you going to visit him? Corin asked quietly. I thought about everything. The Bluetooth call, the stolen jewelry, the changed will, the years of manipulation. Eventually, but not today. A week later, Dad's accountant, Howard, emailed me. Marielle, your father called. He's asking questions about the withdrawals from his accounts over the past 2 years. Wants to understand where all the money went. He specifically asked if I had any proof of the transfers to Verina, the loans, the timeline. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I opened my saved files. The Bluetooth recording from that very first day. The one where Dad and Verina laughed about clearing out my stuff. Where they planned my erasure like a fun weekend project. Where Verina called Mom's quilts junk, and Dad agreed. I attached the file to a reply email. No message. No explanation. Just the audio file labeled 4:17 p.m. Thursday, Bluetooth recording.mp3. I hit send. Howard called 40 minutes later. He listened to it. All of it. I stayed in the room because he asked me to in case he had questions about the financial timeline. Howard's voice was shaken. Marielle, I've known your father for 15 years. I've never heard a man cry like that. Like something inside him broke that can't ever be fixed. What did he say? He kept playing it back. Listening to his own voice, his own words, his own laughter. He kept saying, that's me. That's really me. That's what I said about my own daughter. Howard paused. He asked me to tell you he understands now, that hearing himself through your ears showed him what he'd become. I felt nothing, then everything, then nothing again. Thank you for letting me know, Howard. He wants to call you, to apologize. I'm not ready for that. I told him you might not be, that some things can't be fixed with apologies. You're a good man, Howard. So was your father once. That's what makes this so tragic. That night, I finally opened Mom's letter. I'd been carrying it with me for 4 months, afraid of what it might say, afraid it would break me in ways I wasn't ready to handle. But I needed her voice now, needed her wisdom. The paper was delicate, her handwriting shaky from illness, but still recognizably hers, careful, deliberate, loving. My darling Marielle, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if your father has lost his way, and sweetheart, I fear he might, I need you to know something important. Stay kind. Always stay kind. It's your superpower. The thing that makes you extraordinary in a world that often rewards cruelty. But don't lose yourself trying to bring him back from wherever he's wandered. Some people have to find their own way home. Some people never do. That's not your fault. That's not your failure. That's not your responsibility. Your only job is to live a life that honors who you are, not who someone else needs you to be. Not even me, not even your father, you. Be Mariel, fully, completely, unapologetically. I love you forever, Mom. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face, my body shaking with sobs I'd held back for months. She'd known. Even dying, even weak, Mom had known Dad might not survive losing her. That he might become someone else. Someone who hurt the people who loved him. I took a photo of the letter and sent it to Dad's phone. No message. Just the image. Let him read Mom's words. Let him understand she'd seen his potential for this failure and loved him anyway. My phone rang 2 minutes later. Dad's number. I didn't answer, but I listened to the voicemail later. His voice breaking, reading Mom's words aloud between sobs. She knew. God, she knew I'd do this. She knew I'd fail you. She knew I'd lose my way, and she loved me anyway. Quiet crying. Then, I don't deserve your forgiveness, Mariel. I know that, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You tried to save me from myself, and I called you the enemy. You protected me when I thought you were attacking. You stayed kind even when I was cruel. More crying. I heard the recording, heard myself laughing about throwing away your mother's things, heard myself helping plan your erasure. That's not who I want to be. That's not who I raised you to believe I was. His voice dropped to a whisper. But that's who I became, and I have to live with that. The voicemail ended. I saved it. Maybe someday I'd be ready to call him back. Maybe someday I'd be ready to rebuild something from these ashes. But not today. 6 months after the Bluetooth call that changed everything, I stood in my apartment, arranging the final touches. Mom's wedding quilt draped across my couch, the stitches catching afternoon sunlight. Her paintings hung on every wall. Grandmother's artwork finally honored the way it deserved. The pearls were back in the jewelry box on my dresser, the only piece of Mom's collection I'd managed to save. The recipe cards were organized in the kitchen, her handwriting a daily reminder of love that transcends death. Everything Verena had wanted to erase now lived in my space, honored and remembered and safe. Corin and Maeve visited every Sunday now. We'd grown closer through this nightmare, the 3 of us forming our own small family unit, separate from Dad. We talked about Mom, shared memories, healed together. Dad was still at Sunrise, stable but diminished. I visited once a month, maybe less. We talked about small things. The weather, his physical therapy. Never anything deep. Never anything requiring the forgiveness I wasn't ready to give. But I made sure he had what he needed. Clean clothes, toiletries, the occasional meal that wasn't facility food. Not because he deserved it, because that's who Mom raised me to be. When someone shows you you're disposable, you have 2 choices. You can fight to prove your worth to someone determined not to see it, destroying yourself in the process. Or you can walk away and build a life where you're not, where your value isn't determined by someone else's inability to recognize it. I chose the second option. My life was mine now. Quiet, peaceful, unshakable, built on foundations that couldn't be donated or pawned or erased. I slept through nights without dreams of proving myself to people who'd already decided I wasn't enough. That was the real victory, not revenge, not vindication, not forcing Dad to understand what he'd lost, just peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you did everything right, even when someone made you feel like you did everything wrong. The kind of peace that comes from walking away with your dignity intact. The kind of peace Mom always wanted for me, even when she knew the path to get there would break my heart. I touched her letter, now framed on my wall. Be Mariel. Fully, completely, unapologetically. That's exactly what I was doing, and for the first time in my life, it was enough.